Good afternoon, Crystal. How are you, ma'am?
I am fine. And yourself?
I'm doing good. I think I almost got this lighting thing figured out.
Oh, well,
Almost,
that's a good thing. Almost, huh?
almost. It's been what, 2 years?
Yeah. Well, what did you do different?
So I've been playing with the position of the lights. So the problem is I have lots of light, but it's not uniform for some reason.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so it's always a journey. It's always
Yeah.
a journey,
Always a
an
change. And
exploration.
morning light or early afternoon light might be a little bit different than late afternoon light.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It is. The sun comes up in a different place, and to be honest with you, it's annoying, is what it
No.
is. It's annoying. The world is not the way I want it to be. Shucks.
Okay.
Well, hey, I am stoked about the program that we have in front of us, and I think it'll lend itself to a couple of different ones.
Okay.
Did you get the information I sent you?
Let me see. My world right now is
I
crazy,
know
crazy,
you're busy.
crazy.
You got stuff going on.
Yeah, I got 40 kids that I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
That takes kind of precedence over everything else. And a lot of moving parts. You just sent
Yes.
me this afternoon or earlier
It was
or yesterday?
earlier today, but it's okay.
Okay.
It was the one that was attached to the invitation.
Oh,
So
okay. I can pull that.
it's the one that talks about the 401k versus an IUL.
Okay. All right. Let me.
Okay. So
It's
let
hot.
me read your bio, and
Okay.
then we
Ooh,
can get into that. How's that sound?
sounds good. Oh, yeah. I see it.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so everyone, please allow me to introduce my friend and colleague, Crystal Mitchell, to Conversations on the Patio. Crystal is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, the co director of Recycling Black Dollars, a co host of The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. It's another weekly online radio show. She's also an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Hey, Crystal. How you doing?
Hey, how are ya?
Yeah, I'm good. And I, of course, am
Nice.
Jevon Thomas. I'm a licensed retirement plan advisor. That means I have all kinds of licenses to tell people what to do who don't listen to me. But today, I'm super excited, as I always am, to talk about something that gets people in a bind, and that is a little bit of difference between the IUL and the 401k plan. And when I say
Okay.
401k plan, of course, I am referring to virtually all employer-sponsored retirement plans. So with that, let's jump right in. Okay.
All righty. And
So
well, first of all, what is the IUL?
it is an index universal life product. It is a
Okay.
product that has investments and life insurance at once. The key benefits is number one, you don't have to have an employer to get one. That's
Okay.
one. Number two, you can withdraw money. So you have to put the money in after tax, but you can withdraw money anytime you want. You have to be, I'm going to say you have to be sneaky because you have to ask for a loan that you're never going to pay back or some type of complicated withdrawal thing. But you can get the money anytime you want. Whereas with a 401k plan, we'll go over this a little bit. You got to be 59 and a half basically to access those funds.
Mm.
Uh, and we'll go over some of those rules. But those are the main kickers. The last kicker is that your 401k plan is invested in the market for retirement, and this will become
Mm-hmm.
a sticker a little bit later, whereas the IUL is based on what's going on in the market. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So just to jump right in, our three main points are going to be not being able to get your money until 59 and a half if you're in a 401k plan. And of course, I'm going to talk with you about this from the point of view of a 401k plan, because that's the employer sponsored plans are what I sell.
Okay.
So we'll do that. So if anybody out there sells IULs, happy to entertain what they have to say about them,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can go from there. You know that they can come on the show, they can call us up, whatever. I'm happy to engage. So first point we're going to make is not being able to get to your monies until 59 and a half. The second we're going to talk about is the fees. The third we're going to talk about is you could lose your money if the market collapses, right? Okay. So that's me being Mr. Nice Guy, being collusion. Done with that. All right, let's get right down to it. And the reason I say that is because most people that I know suggest that the IUL, if they sell them, is better than a 401k. And so we're going to talk about some of the things, like I just mentioned, they use to debunk the 401k. And we're going to talk about why that's not necessarily true. Okay. And then I'm going to give you a couple of bonus things at the end.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Okay. So here we go. Number one, the first kick that most people bring up is you can't get to your money until 59 and a half, which is a problem because sometimes people need that money dramatically earlier if they have an issue with their home or an emergency comes up. And let's say you've been putting into this thing and you can't get your money out. Okay, that's tough. The standard case is the early withdrawal, right? Which is expensive because you most likely have to pay taxes on that money. It's going to raise up your income. And there's a 10% penalty. Not good, right? Okay. Not only that, but there are specific reasons where you can get that withdrawal, and they're not necessarily the only reasons why we have emergencies. So if your kid needs money for a medical expense that's covered by covered by insurance, then it's not a reason to have the withdrawal. But let's go over let's start at the top. So age 59 and a half withdrawal. Many folks may not know this, but the Secure 2.0 Act actually gave employers the opportunity to, number one, automatically sign people up for what they call an emergency cash account, and they can put up to 3% of your monies that they take out of your check into that if they automatically sign you up, right?
Okay.
Right. So you can put money into an emergency cash account. That's kind of new. So, lots of folks didn't know about that, including my colleagues that sell IULs. Also, you can put money in there yourself, right? And then it doesn't affect the match, right?
Okay.
So, you can still put money into the account. You can still get the match. So that's a good thing. The match, however, is going to go into your regular account. Okay. And you can get that money out when you need to. You can get that money out at least once a month and once every month if you need to. And as far as there isn't any reason necessarily for that. You just have to have an emergency. So let's say your transmission goes out, or essentially all the emergencies that we used to tell people you can't get if you're doing a hardship withdrawal. So, I'm really big on the emergency fund, and this pretty much is that. There is a limit for the employer if they do it for you. There's a limit of $2,500, but I haven't seen $2,500 a year, but I haven't seen any personal limit, right? So, you want to talk with your financial advisor and your record keeper to see if the employer set that up, because they can. It's not going to cost them anything more. It's not like it's a hardship for them. They're not really doing anything. All they have to do is change what the form looks like for entering into the plan, or let you know that it's now available, right? And that's a couple of keystrokes. Sometimes a record keeper will charge some money, or a TPA may charge some money to make that change in the contract, but we're not talking thousands of dollars here. Right?
Okay.
So it's new, but new plans are able to do that. So the good thing about that is an employee can establish an emergency fund just in case something happens. You know how big I am on that, along with the regular 401k in the same account. So you'll invest in the same investments at your regular 401k. If you wanted to, you could have it invest in something else, but
Okay.
you can have it invest in the same things. Okay, so that's one. And then, of course, there is the 59.5 withdrawal, right? There's that. And then, of course, there is the hardship withdrawal. And the interesting thing about the hardship withdrawal since 2.0 is that they're pretty much self-certified. So there was a time when you would have to, for example, get the notice that the sheriff was coming to your door to evict you, get that, take it to your employer, have them sign off on it.
Oh my God.
Your third-party administrator, they sign off and say, yeah, this is cool. And then apply for the hardship withdrawal. And then the carrier would say, okay, and send you the money. A bit of a hassle.
In fact, by that time they were taking your house and sold it already to somebody else for all of that purpose, right?
Yeah. So you had to get, let's say, creative with your financing in order to make that happen. But remember, the plan was set up for retirement, right? So that's kind of a big thing. It is set for retirement. So having easy access to it really wasn't part of the plan. So that's it. So we have the emergency cash account that was just established a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And we do have the hardship withdrawal. So there you go. Okay. So that's one. And then the 59.5. Okay. Number two is the fees. Many of my colleagues on the IUL side will say that the fees of the 401k are just astronomical, sometimes between 2 and 4%. And I have to say, they're right. Many of them are that expensive. However, I would say to that, it is the job and obligation of the plan sponsor to monitor those fees and to get them as low as possible. And most of the plans that I work on, if they have more than a couple $100,000 in them, which is pretty easy to get to, those fees are between 0.5 and 0.1%, pretty low, especially when we're talking about fees between 2 and 4%. But let's not forget that the 2 and 4% pays everybody. It pays the money manager of the funds. It pays the administration of the fees. It pays everybody. Everybody that's involved gets paid by that 2 to 4%. We all want to, buy our boats and all that kind of thing. If you go to an IUL, they still have fees, right? It's not like you get away from the fees. You still got to pay the fund manager. You still got to pay, because the IUL is based many times on mutual funds with a death benefit attached.
Okay.
To it, right? It's an insurance contract. And so to say that the fees are enormous, I would say, if someone is talking with you about that, and I definitely suggest that people look into it. If someone's talking with you about that, you got to ask them, okay, how much am I actually really paying? And how long is that going to last? Because free can look different depending on what side of the point you're looking at. Right?
That it can.
You're with, right? Oh, it's free. But what is this? Well, that's not part of that. Oh, so that means it's free. Yeah.
Right. No, you got to pay it. It didn't come out so that you can see it happening. Yeah.
And there's different rules with, and this is something that I didn't put in there, but there are different rules. And the 401ks, let's call them employer-sponsored plans, are, they're guided by this body of law called ERISA, Employer Retirement Insurance Security Act. And that group of laws is designed specifically to protect plan sponsors, but mostly employees or people who are participants in the plan. So we've got rules so that we can't discriminate. We've got rules so we don't do things. Everything has to be done on behalf of the employee, and it's a benefit of the employer's plan, right? So you can't get one unless you're employed. So this isn't part of my original thing, but since I'm on a roll here, you can't get the employer-sponsored plan unless you're working for an organization, right? So on the one hand, you can say, wow, this might be better for me. But on the other hand, you say, I'm giving up this ability to save. And I would say, and I'll say that I'm biased, but I would say, even if you make $400,000, $500,000 a year, and the $20,000 or $30,000 that you're able to put into a 401k plan isn't going to really help your tax liability, it's still a savings option. It's still an easy savings option. The money comes out of your check, goes in, you don't have to worry about it, right?
Right.
And if you do it the right way, which is based on you can do it pre-tax or after tax, and you can do that with an IUL, pre-tax or after tax. But the money comes right out of your paycheck. You don't have to worry about it. For many of us as Americans, we need a little help taking care of ourselves. And the ERISA was designed so that we could do that. So that's one. And just to review, number one, we've got under 59 and a half. Okay, we can get to the money. Number two, the fees. All right, the job of the employer is to make sure those fees are commensurate with the service. They don't have to be the cheapest out there, but that's a big job, right? Is to make sure that the fees are commensurate. That's acting in the best interest of participants. That is the employer's number one job when setting up a 401k plan.
Okay.
So with that, you can say, okay, I've got somebody looking out for me other than this advisor person that sold it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I got a body of law. I got somebody looking out for me. Okay. The last one, and this is kind of a doozy, and that is, what if the market crashes? You lose all your money. That's tough.
That's
right?
big.
That's big. It's big. And, I've been in the industry, although I look very young. I've been in the industry for a little while. Thank you for laughing at that. I remember 2001 with the dot-com bubble. Right?
Yeah, I worked in it. I really remember it because I worked in it.
Right? I was there. Yeah. And people were calling and they were concerned.
Yeah.
Right. And they were looking for safe havens. And that was tough. And I think 2001 was as bad as it was. I don't know if it was as bad as 2008. And I'll tell you, I mean, it took us a while to get through with the dot-com bubble there. But I think it seemed to me that when 2008 happened, we thought we weren't going to have another one of those. And when 2008 happened, it seemed like a lot of people really were like throwing their hands up. And I think it was more emotionally tough on a lot of folks. At least it seemed that way to me. That's not scientific. It just seemed tough.
I think I'm in agreement with you, and mainly because it hit two specific marketplaces, one specific marketplace, which is housing. And most Americans or most people, their wealth is tied up in their house, right?
Yes.
And so then, unlike 2008, no one had to move out of their house.
Right.
2001, no one had to move out of their house. No one lost their homes, right?
Right.
No one had, I mean, the real estate industry and the mortgage industry was just like flat. It was like nothing, right? So that didn't happen in 2001. That crash was a little different. So you felt it, but you didn't feel it, right? But this one, because there was a domino effect.
Yes.
Because I remember in 2001, I had just started my business in late 90s, and it really didn't have much effect on my business. 2008 had a major. I lost 65% of my clientele. So I felt that one. And then of course there were homes everywhere on the marketplace. So I think that one was a lot worse.
Yes. And even some of my friends bought, of course, at the top of the market in 2007, 2008, and, suddenly saw their homes worth dramatically less. And I remember coming out here to California a few years after 2008. And people were saying, I'm still underwater. I'm never going to come back. It's never going to come back. That was a big fear. Okay. So.
And then, right behind it, some of them that were recouping themselves and just getting back on top of things. Then here comes the pandemic, and that was tough too. That was tough too, man. But so 3 different major financial crises with 3 different of affects to those of us who actually were affected by it.
Yeah. And this is what I think is something that we as financial advisors really need to hone in on when we talk with our clients, is that number one, we've got to understand the tools. And right here, we're looking at what happens if you lose your money. Well, the benefit of a retirement plan, like an IUL, but with the benefit of a retirement plan, is they usually come with an advisor. And they usually come with an advisor that you can talk to. My standard rule is 5 years before you are going to retire, start having that conversation with that advisor so that you can plan on how you're going to get out of it, how you're going to transition from your plan into a retirement plan. And make sure that you take that questionnaire so that you understand what your risk tolerance is. And I think if many more people had done that, that wouldn't have been such a bad thing. Would they have lost money? At this point in the conversation, I'm going to say, yeah, but I'm going to say that with a caveat. Would their accounts have gone down? That's a better way to say that. Could they have been a little bit more prepared for that? Yes, I believe so. I can remember talking with folks and they said, I did everything I was supposed to do and I still lost money, right?
Yeah.
And of course, my answer to that, because I'm a wee bit philosophical and sometimes not a very nice person, I would say, based on what you just told me, you didn't do everything you were supposed to do. And that sounds rough, right? But that suggests that the advisor that they were working with, if they were, wasn't able to let them know this is how you want to look at what's going on here. Because we have a problem in the US is that we look at the money that we have invested and we consider that just money. It's just money. In actuality, we need to look at the tool that it's invested in. So for example, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? Well, this is just one tool in your toolbox amongst many that we need to keep in mind when we are planning for retirement. So what could someone have done? Well, it's very possible if you're getting very close to retirement that you could have moderated your income, because bonds they went down too in 2008, right? They lost less money than stocks did, right? And equities did. And so that would have been a softer landing. Being prepared mentally to say, okay, it's 5 years before I retire. It is 2006. The market is booming. Am I really someone that needs to be as aggressive as I need to be? Do I need to have as much money as I can get? Or what's my plan for retirement? How am I going to transition into retirement? What kind of tools, what kind of things do I need to have so that if I lose money in the market, I'm going to be okay? Now, I'm not going to sit up here and be pompous and say you would have been fine. That's just not the case.
Right.
It's not. But would you have been more prepared mentally and emotionally for that downturn? And that's the whole deal with behind the 401k, is that it is retirement based. The market does come back. When those assets come back, then you profit. In 2010, most people in the market saw a huge increase in the value of their savings in their 401k in the equities, especially if they kept buying. So that adage of buy low, sell high, it really came into a point there. And folks needed to realize that. They needed to say, okay, this is a crash. Yes. This hurts. Yes. You get 24 hours to kick the dog. And now the next day, what are we going to do? All right. We know that the market is down. We're going to put some more money in because it will come back. Why do we know it's going to come back? Because it always comes back. Is it going to be pretty? I can't tell you that. But I can tell you that the American economy is pretty strong. It's going to come back, right? And it did. It came back ferociously in 2010. So there it is. And now I want to say, okay, that's because your retirement plan is based on you retiring, whereas an IUL is based on the market. Right? So if in the case of an IUL, you may not have gone below zero, right? They're based on the return of the market. You may have been able to keep that money there. Okay. I would say to that, most of us need to have the downturn if we're not in those retirement years or right next to them. Most of us need to have that downturn because we don't save enough. We just don't. And so when the market goes down, that's our opportunity to buy low. That's all it is. The big thing with the market is buy low, sell high. If we don't have downturns, it's tough to buy low. If you don't have the right level of risk tolerance, you're in trouble, right? So when we talk to people about the difference between an IUL and a employer-sponsored plan, I want to say two things at the end of this. One is an employer-sponsored plan is a benefit of working for that company. So if you're not participating in that, especially if they have a match, there's a very good chance you're leaving money on the table. That's not so good. Right?
No, never is.
And then secondarily, I would say this isn't an either or world. There's no reason why you can't have both. And so you definitely want to talk with your financial advisor to see, okay, how do I work these opportunities that I have in front of me? How do I make the tools that I have work for me, what's going on in my life? So that means you got to take some responsibility and you got to speak up and you got to ask. The help is there. It really is. The help is there. So, so don't be that guy that is either afraid or not concerned or what have you with regard to saving for their own retirement. Speak up, ask the questions, and don't be afraid to have two amazing tools to help you save for retirement.
I think that's excellent. And again, I think people have to, it's your money, your future. Yep. And so therefore you have to be actively involved in it. You can't, because a lot of people feel they have a representative or someone working on their behalf, and they leave all of those decisions up to that person. But that person is not the one going to be retiring. That person is not going to be the one that needs the money when they need it. It's going to be you. So you have to be in your money on every level. You have to be actively involved in what's happening and how it's happening.
Said it better than that.
Right. And to understand. Don't just assume they are the professional. So you don't need to understand. No, you need to understand what they understand.
You do. And I would just, I think that's incredibly important. I don't even want to say anything about that except one thing. And that is, if your advisor isn't talking to you in a language that you can understand, get rid of him or her. Find somebody that will. Find someone that can make you understand so that you understand the differences between what you're investing in, so that you understand how it works, so that you can make a good decision, right? That's going to fit your needs. I mean, you know, not every car on the road is appropriate for everyone. Some of us need to drive a pickup. Some of us need to drive a 4-door car. Some of us are okay with a 2-door car, but it has to be a convertible. Some of us need a 4-door car. There's all kinds of stuff on the road. And then some of us need 2 or 3 cars.
Right.
I'm not one of those people, but some of us do. Right?
But you have to have your motorcycle though, right?
I do have a motorcycle. That's true. I would use the word need. I would, yeah. We do. But that works for me. Right?
That works for you.
That works for me. It doesn't work for everybody else. Some of my friends they think I'm crazy. Yeah,
right.
But that works for me, and that's fine for me. And so you want to find the tools that work for you, and you want to use them in a way that they work for you. And so that's why you want to, as you said, talk with your financial advisor. Get them to help you out. Yeah. Any last words?
No, I think that's it. That just pretty much covers the whole thing.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I just want to close by saying that 3 things to look out for when you're talking about an IUL: the 59.5 withdrawal, the fees. That is, when can I get my money? What are the fees? And what happens if? What happens if? There you go.
What happens if? Okay.
Thank you for joining me. It's been great chatting with you as usual, and I will see you and all of those folks next Monday on the patio with Crystal and Jevon.
Awesome.